Talking fishing, nothing but fishing, talking fishing. If it's facts about fishing that you want to know, then tune in, folks, cause this is the show. We'll show you all the right bait to use, so sit right back, you got nothing to lose. Doesn't really matter if it's trout or carp, flathead, marlin or a gummy shark. Listen to the guys and you can't go wrong. They'll be talking about fishing till the cows come home. Talking fishing, nothing but fishing, we're talking fishing.
Welcome everyone to Talking Fishing, and wow, what a week it has been. A big show coming to you tonight with all the regular segments, plus Shadow Minister for Fisheries Jacinta Allen joins us live in the studio very shortly to explain the Labor Party's plan for recreational fishing. Adam Ring, great to see you and your family at the big march in Geelong on Sunday.
Yeah, we took the family down for the march, and it was a great turnout and a great day, and the sun came out and joined the party as well, which made it even
Now, how old's Addison?
She's 4.
First time she's marched in a down the street.
First time she's marched, and
got
she
the
was
banner up.
All she was worried about was walking on the road with the cars.
Yeah.
Taught her something.
First time she's ever had a police escort as well. And Steve Trelfall, we know him as Trelly. Some big statements made last weekend about fishing, Trelly, and it's all good news, isn't it?
It's all good news. Both the major parties have stepped up to the plate, and hopefully we won't have any of those marches again.
That's right, yeah.
Absolutely.
Let's just go back to, not to last Tuesday's show, but to probably Friday night it all started. We had Daniel Andrews in the studio of 3AW Boys, and he actually released his policy on recreational fishing on 3AW last Friday night. And anyone that wants to check out that story, there is a story on 3aw.com.au if you want to have an actual listen to that interview. But he announced a lot of things, and Jacinta Allen will be going through all those things tonight. We're putting her under the grill, so to speak, and asking her all the questions about the policy. But it went from there to Saturday. I know Daniel was on Rex Hunt's show on SEN on Saturday morning, again going through the policy, and then Sunday the big march through the streets of Geelong, and well over 1,000 people attended that, and thank you very much. I know we pushed it fairly bigly last week, if bigly is a correct word.
It is, that's how big it was.
That's how big it was, bigly. And a great turn up. We marched through the streets, pretty much not protesting. It was in support of, yes, we've got both parties of politics agreed to ban netting in Port Phillip Bay.
Well, that's right. Well, I think it was almost introduced as a celebration, and that it was. You know, both parties have come out now and announced what they're going to do for recreational fishing, and it was great to see a massive turnout because it is a celebration. Look what we've got to look forward to now.
Yeah, exactly. Like you say, it did start off as a bit of a protest march. Well, that's what it was aimed at. Get the netting out. Both parties came on board, and it was a celebratory march.
Quite a bit of difference between the two parties as well, and we'll go through that tonight. I think last week we spent pretty much the whole week on the coalition's policy and pulled that apart. The promise to ban netting in Port Phillip Bay over a 10-year period, $20 million contributing to it. A voluntary buyback in Gippsland Lakes, which I've got to say hasn't been received overly well. And we talked a little bit about it last week.
That's right.
That danger of a voluntary buyback, because you get 2 or 3 guys, and I think there's been a few smart aleck comments, if you like, coming out of there saying, 2 guys will hand their licences in, that'll take the $2 million, and the other 6 will fish just as hard. So very, very careful with those voluntary buybacks. And now we've got a whole raft of things coming out of the Labor Party, which is a full policy. There's probably 20 different items that we will go through in detail later on.
Well, that's it. It's not just about netting. I know that's probably been the spotlight, and that's the one thing we've focused our attention on pretty heavily. But it's a whole package, Dave. It's not just based around this one thing.
Yeah, there's some big things.
Very good result. I think the pressure was put on Labor by the coalition, and they've responded, which is a really good thing.
Absolutely.
Falls exactly into places we want it to
Just
fall.
Again, I'll ask you again, Trelly, up in Shepparton, some of that news filtered through to Shepparton?
It does, actually. What it does is actually filters through to the country people, because we've seen over a period of time prop up in media releases some of the parks as far as marine national parks in freshwater. So, from Barmer to Tokemall or certain parts of Mulwala. So they still bubble underneath it, and they watch everything that's going around the state. So fishermen, what the word is like with fishermen, it spreads quicker than a bite.
Spreads pretty quick,
So it does get up their way.
Plenty to talk about, but boys, time to check out what's being caught by the people at home. Let's have a look at some of the catches of the week. And we'll kick it off with Nathan Calagris, I think it is. Calagris, a beautiful flathead there, weighed just over a kilogram, caught off carom. And I know it's all about snapper, but I'll tell you what, you're going to see over the next 3 or 4 minutes some absolutely beautiful flathead being caught as a bycatch.
Well, where are all these big flathead coming from? They were non-existent in the bay over the last.
Oh, well, if you
I guess over the last.
You go
probably
back 3 years ago.
Yeah, that's right. And
Everyone was saying there's a flathead, a flathead shortage is the correct way to say it. And what a beautiful flathead. I know he's out with his dad, Peter, and I think he's allowed to stay up tonight and actually watch himself on television. So a great little flathead there caught by Nathan. Well done, Nathan. Half as tall as him. Owen Thompson, the next one, an 8.16 kilo snapper caught in Westernport. Not sure where, but cracker of a photo again, boys, and a great fish.
So it looks every bit of 8.16 kilos, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Big fish, and they continue to roll in from Westernport. It just
Absolutely.
refuses to. The school fish refuse to school up. It's all, it's all big fish still.
It's not, if you go back last year and even the last year before, I know last year there was quite a few bigger fish caught early.
That's right.
But by this time of year, there was a lot of 2 and 3 kilo fish.
Yeah, and it even slowed down a fair bit by this time of year in Westernport.
Yeah.
But it's good to see it kick on because it's known as a big fish, I guess, fishery for the snapper.
Yeah.
And we're well into November now, and who knows? They don't look like stopping. This could go right through December, and in January we'll still see reports in Catch of the Week of 8 kilo plus fish.
Absolutely.
Weather's been kind to us too this year.
The weather's been very
kind.
kind.
Winter up until the first week of December last year, so the weather's been great.
Yeah. The whiting, boys, in Westernport, I don't think it's any secret. The guys that fish for them, they want to keep it a little bit quiet, but there is some sensational whiting. Kalini O'Connor, a beautiful 42 centimetre in the Tooradin Channel. So up that top end, boys, and photo I didn't include this week because it was just lying on the bottom of a boat. A 51 centimetre whiting as well caught this week up the top end. So 42 is pretty good for a young fellow, and what a cracker fish.
So 42, I'd take that any day of the week.
Absolutely.
Whiting, especially for now. I guess it's still classed early, but there you go. The proof's there. They're thick and they're ready to chew.
A couple of fillets in a nice bit of beer batter, and that would be very, very good.
What they're going to be catching in 5 years' time.
Yeah,
I know.
That's right.
And this, do you know what? This is the result of banning netting in Westernport. These big fish, some of these fish are, a 51 centimetre, let's face it, that's a South Australian fish. So
it's getting up there.
Pretty good. Tim, 63 centimetre flathead off cows. Another big flathead coming from the deep. I think that was in 18 metres of water. Boys, do you know what Tim's last name is? No, either do I.
It's Tim, 63 centimetre flathead from Cairns.
I was just going to say, either do I. People, please give us your surnames and we'll put you all over the TV. But Tim, beautiful flathead. Stephen Tantaro, he headed down to Bem River, boys, and a beautiful, it does say a 73 centimetre brim on the sheet, but it was actually a 43 centimetre brim. Bit of a typo there.
I nearly lost my mind, Dave.
and please, you people looking at that beautiful photo at home, 73 centimetres, that's my typo for the day. Thank you very much. You've got to love live television.
Yeah, that's right. but
it's
still
that big, that's right, yeah.
But still, horse of a brim.
Absolutely, yeah.
Cracker.
How old
brim.
would something like that be?
Well, probably
That's
too
an
old
old
to
fish.
keep. You'd want to
Yeah,
get him
that's an
taken
old
in.
long time.
Would it be 15 plus?
Easy.
Yeah,
easy.
yeah.
And lucky last, we had to get 6 in, but seriously, we got some good photos sent to us this week, and plenty of people sending them through at about 8:45 every Tuesday, so it's a good indication that things are working. But Corey, 9 years old, a beautiful couple of snapper off Lysarts, and I laugh at Lysarts every week because it's actually Blue Scope steel. I've worked there 17 years, and it hasn't been called Lysarts for 25, but it is a landmark
To
for
us, that's what we know it as.
But how great are those photos with kids?
Oh,
Yeah,
I mean, they're off the computer games, they're out in the fresh air, they're in a boat with mum or dad living
Yeah,
it.
and there's nothing more
Fantastic.
exciting than that.
Yeah,
And young
it's really
Corey's
good.
done well to hold up those 2 snapper. I reckon
has.
they're almost the size of him.
Yeah, I wish we could have 20 photos on because that's the amount of photos we're getting sent to us every week. And I've got to
quicker.
Yeah, if we talk quicker. And I've got to say, the kids, they just take a great photo. Big smiles.
That's
Often,
right.
they're busting themselves,
Oh, yeah.
holding the fish up, and it's all pretty good. But some great kids photos. Keep sending them in because they're good. But the the adults, they take a great photo too. We love to see some of those big
that's
fish.
it.
Those
And
8,
that's it. With
9,
the
10 kilos.
With the fish around at the moment, there's no reason not to be taking photos. They all seem to be big.
Absolutely. Now, if you'd like to send in a pic of your catch of the week, make sure you give us your full name and location, and this is what you have to do.
If you want to be like me and have your photo on TV, email your fishing pic to info@ifish.com.au.
And coming up on Talking Fishing, product of the week, and we have a look at the rally through the streets of Geelong last Sunday, and Jacinta Allen live in the studio right after this.
Talking fishing. Talking fishing.
And product of the week, boys, what do you wear on your feet when you go fishing?
Yeah, well, just like everything else that in the fishing industry these days, it's not as simple as just a pair of shoes, Dave.
Well, I know someone very close to me that wore thongs last time up at Eildon and has very, in fact, her feet are peeling right now.
Oh, no.
Won't be wearing thongs for a
Not
while.
good. Let's have a look at them, Matt.
What she needed, Dave,
Yeah.
was a pair of boat shoes. Now,
Yeah.
I know boat shoes, everyone thinks you've got to wear them on a boat, but these are great for walking around those, I guess, inland streams, or great for if you're launching and retrieving a boat, because you never know what's on the ramp. There could be sharp stones, shells, glass even. Not only help protect your feet, but nice and light. So they'll keep the sun off. And you can also, they're also incredibly light. So when they do fill up with water, it's not like you're cruising around.
Oh, and they
with
dry
the
in
cement
no
boots.
time. I mean,
Yeah.
I wear these on the boat all the time. They're very, very comfortable. Just slip on, so there's no laces, no Velcro,
Yep.
anything like that, and they dry so easily.
Plenty of grip too.
They're great for walking out to the boat. If you pull up on the the side of a beach or something like that, and there's a lot of shells. Particularly like I go down the Mornington Peninsula a lot, and just absolutely brilliant. Walking over shells, don't get bitten by crabs.
They're really
Yeah.
good. Actually, you won't believe I went overseas and
Where'd you go, Phillip Island? Oh.
No, we went over to Italy actually, and I put those in the bag just as a spare pair of shoes, and I found myself wearing them all the time.
Is that right?
They're nice and light to pack,
Yep.
and I was just so comfortable.
Yeah.
We did a lot of walking. I discarded my $200 pair of sneakers.
Yep.
Brand name things.
More
all
of
of
them.
those.
Yep.
Wow.
And now they come in both men's and ladies.
That's the ladies' version.
yeah, so
that
yeah,
you've
there's a
got?
little bit of a colour change. The ladies are probably a little bit prettier. Dave,
Which ones do you prefer?
I was going to say, Dave, you've probably got a pair of them.
I can
You
see
beat
that
me
coming.
to it. You beat me to it.
Yeah.
Come on, guys.
The
Come on.
ladies' one's got a bit of Velcro on too.
Yeah,
that's
they
what
do.
Yeah.
Moving on from there, we go into the old.
No,
Well,
gumboots
well, I was
aren't
gonna
gumboots
say-
anymore, ads.
I'd say gumboot, but it's far from a gumboot. These are non-slip, non-marking for everyone with their white fiberglass boats. You
Yeah.
can still wear them on the boat and you're all good. But I think it's probably more, I guess, a winter thing. The offshore guys love them. If you're on the beach, again, if you're walking the bank in winter when it's bitterly cold and you don't want to be getting your feet
Yep.
wet with bare boat shoes.
Tuna fishing.
Yeah,
when
and
it
this-
gets
and this-
in a May, June, it's freezing cold.
Exactly.
They've got like a wetsuit material
They
top,
do, yeah.
like
There's
the neoprene.
a neoprene top, so again, incredibly comfortable. They
Yeah.
do actually keep your feet warm. I know a problem we've had in the past with the gumboot, you've got to wear 500 pairs of socks underneath just to try and
Yeah.
keep your feet warm. So
The best thing I like about these ads is the grips. You've got those grips there, so you can,
can
if
get 'em on.
If you're cold or you're a little bit wet or whatever, you can grip them, get them on, get them off very, very easily and nice and warm.
yeah,
They're
and that's
absolutely
I mean
beautiful.
that's a winter thing. That's primarily the market that
And
we
a lot
sell
of the
them.
decks
Yeah.
that you actually, a lot of the decks on fishing boats are actually really, really slippery, like you say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you've got a big rod and reel and you're trying to handle a big fish, great.
Yeah.
And they're also got a chemically resistant salt
Yeah.
too, so you're not.
Now I like these for the safety point
That's
of view.
right, and that's why we thought we'd bring these in. Rock fishing is becoming more and more popular these days, and coming into summer now, there'll be plenty of, guys and girls on the rocks casting in the line. They've actually
So they're called a rock hopper.
they're called a rock hopper. They come in a neat little bag, Dave, which has got I guess a mesh bottom, so you can stick them back in there, give them a hose down.
You can just hang them up and let them dry.
That's right, yeah. Give them a hose down so that
But
you're
the
not
best feature,
throwing the
boys,
zippers.
The Chinese massage nibbles.
that you could. They've actually got steel spikes, so they've got a bit of a rubber coating, I think, but steel spikes, so they grip on a rock or
right.
even on a slippery pier. Some of those piers in winter,
Exactly.
just really, they're absolutely ideal. They're a must for rock fishing in this day and age.
You wouldn't go rock fishing without them. I mean, we've all seen the nasty videos on the internet about guys getting taken away, and most of the time they're not reading the conditions or they've got inappropriate footwear. These could potentially save your life, and so they're a must. If you're going to fish off the rocks, and it's a great way to go fishing, something like this. They're easy. They're neoprene top. They're comfortable, warm, easy zip, so you can get them in and out. They are an absolute must if
Absolute
you're fishing
must
off the
for
rocks.
rock
They're
fishing.
not expensive and they're cheap
That's right.
insurance.
Correct.
That's right.
That's Product of the Week. We've got a big show to come up. We're going to talk now about the Geelong Rally. In fact, we're going to go and have a look at it because it was a great turnout. Like I said earlier on, over 1,000 people turned out to the streets of Geelong for a celebration that netting is finally going to go in Port Phillip Bay, and that will change Port Phillip Bay forever. Let's have a look at some of the footage that was recorded on Sunday just gone.
I want you all to understand how pleased and delighted I am that we have achieved our goal of ending netting in Port Phillip Bay. I emphasise the term we. From the tea lady to the leaders, the politicians, to the general community, it has been a win for the people who have spoken without fear or favour, without being told that you're politically incorrect and you can't say that. I hasten to add, it's not the end of commercial fishing like they're trying to worry you and scare you. There'll be no shortage of fish and chips. The fish and chip industry will prosper, but not at the expense of the benthos and the environment of which the future of our fish stocks in the piscatorial kingdom we call our home, it is there for everybody. Fish can be commercially harvested, make no mistake, but not with nets, not to discriminate when it comes to juvenile fish and the habitat in which they live. Official figures, listen to this, official figures are that recreational fishing in Victoria is worth $2.1 billion a year. I see great opportunities for increased aquaculture in our bays. We've seen it with mussel farms. We've seen them become artificial reefs. How many of you go off the Point Richards there amongst the mussels and catch the garfish as thick as your arm? Netting is socially not acceptable. It's finished. This man is the catalyst, the man that laid the first cement foundation. He is the Friends of Corio Bay Ambassador. Please welcome Ivan Bereza.
Now, from what Footbag started in the early days, we only asked for Corio Bay in and out of harbour as a net-free area, and we asked at our first public meeting that other groups please form all over Port Phillip Bay. If you want all of Port Phillip Bay, please form other groups. We'll join you, we'll let you know what we're doing, we'll form one big major group. And we had a lot of people say, look, what about not just Corio Bay, what about St Leonards and Dennet Heads, Altona and Werribee and Mornington and everywhere else where they net quite a lot as well. So we'd like to thank Rex Hunt, David Kramer, AFTA, Australian Fishing Tackle Association, and Future Fish for supporting us, and more so the last few months raising this and highlighting this issue to get netting banned in Port Phillip Bay.
Please welcome David Kramer.
Thank you very much. I've spoken at a number of these occasions with Friends of Corio Bay Action Group, and by far this is the sweetest that we've been able to get up on here, because today we stand here after everything we've fought for. We have both sides of politics saying they will ban netting in Port Phillip Bay, and how good is that?
Folks, you wouldn't have a clue who I am, but the bloke at the back said, did you used to be Rex Hunt? And this is Lachlan. No, he's not my boy, but I tell you what, he's the future of fishing. And so's the ladies and the girls, the Minister, Mr Walsh, and the Shadow Minister, Jacinta Allen, behind us, talking to the people who will vote for the next government of Victoria. We're all winners. The netting is out of Corio Bay. The netting is out of Port Phillip Bay. Now it joins Malakuta, Shallow Inlet. It involves Western Port. The sky's the limit. And it was people power. The hard thing that I'm going to say to you now is just because the netters are out doesn't mean that some of you blokes can take over to your old practices. We'll get a shame file and we'll shame you on the front page of the newspaper. This is the future. No one has a right to make a permanent damage and footprint on this planet. Fishing is the winner, and why don't you give fishing a go? It's a great family pastime. I'm Rex Hunt, he's Lachlan, and this is what it's all about. Have a look at this. Shirley Temple, have a great day.
Talking fishing.
I don't know where Rex gets the props from but just absolutely fantastic support for the rally on Sunday, guys, and just so good to see the anglers turn out, and a very, very heartfelt thank you to everybody that turned up, and I think all the organisers, they know who they are. Two very special people that spoke were Peter Walsh, the Minister for Fisheries. He spoke first, followed by the Shadow Minister for Jacinta Allen, and the Honourable Jacinta Allen joins us tonight. Thanks for coming in, Jacinta.
It's great to join you, David. Thank you.
I know you've come from a function in Bendigo all the way into Melbourne, back to Bendigo, and we do appreciate you coming in tonight. We wanted to talk about Labor's plan. I said earlier on that Daniel Andrews came on 3AW on Friday night and released the plan, which was fantastic. Now, I guess I'll put my glasses on so I can actually read the plan. The big one is Labor will phase out commercial netting in Port Phillip and Corio Bays over the next 8 years. Matched it with a $20 million funding. That's fantastic.
Well, David, we've listened really carefully to the views that you've put forward, to the views that the recreational fishers have put forward more broadly, and it's really helped us understand just this is a big issue for fishing. It's really been the number one issue, and I think the passion that was on display on Sunday at the rally demonstrated that this is an issue that's not just one for those people who live along the bay and live along the coast. It's an issue that touches people right across Victoria, you know, people from my own area as well, you know, from far and wide. So really pleased to have responded in a positive way.
Absolutely.
But also to, I guess, having a point of difference. We're wanting to introduce this sliding cap to make sure that as the licences are reduced, the net practice of netting is reduced as well.
Yeah, so that's a cap on the commercial catch based on as licences are bought out. They, you know, I was saying earlier on, the danger with the voluntary buyback is that a couple of licences go, the other guys fish twice as hard, and there's no net result, pardon the pun. But this sliding cap will actually stop all that and maybe even provide an incentive for netters to get out.
Well, I think obviously there's some discussion about how long the buyout will take. So what the approach that Labor's taking is to see some outcomes from the beginning and to see the reduction in the netting practice from the beginning as people's licences. Some people may decide to hand it in from the beginning. Some people may want to continue through that phase. But that sliding cap is really, really important because there is some real frustrations that fishermen are having, recreational fishermen are having right now, and we need to respond to that straight away, and that's what we'll be doing with this sliding cap.
The beauty with the rally being in Geelong too, guys, is that it was taking it out to an area that is heavily affected. Corio Bay, there's no doubt, and probably the Mornington Peninsula is the other one, you know, that's very, very heavily affected. And it's those tourism spots where people want to go to for their Christmas holidays, Easter holidays, and they get out there, they've only got a week off work or 2 weeks off work, they've been working damn hard all year, they get down there and they can't catch a fish. And you know, there was some arguments put up on Friday night about, you know, what's the science behind it and all that sort of stuff. So, but we'll talk about that a little bit later, the science behind it, because it's not all about science, it's about the economics and the social aspect of it. But plenty to talk about. Up next, fisheries news and plenty more to discuss with Jacinta Allen. We'll see you after this.
Talking fishing. Talking fishing.
And now it's time for the news. The fisheries news. Sounds a bit fishy to me.
And just a little bit of fisheries news this week, and then straight back into talking with Jacinta Allen, the Shadow Minister for Fisheries, who's been good enough to join us in the studio tonight. Just a reinforcement, Victorian Murray cod catch limits are changing because, as we know, Trelly, 1 December, that's your big countdown up in Shepparton, the start of the cod season, isn't it?
That's right, and we've seen some sense come out of both sides of the Murray River.
Yeah.
And they've got together, they both agreed 55 centimetres to 75 centimetres.
Yep.
It's a period where they're less vulnerable to the catch. They grow through that pretty quick.
Yep.
And once they get above that, they're, the number of eggs actually spawned increases dramatically.
Yep. So just a reminder, minimum size 55 centimetres, the maximum size 75 centimetres. You've got to throw them back after that. And the bag limit in rivers will be 1. The changes will improve Murray cod sustainability, long-term and fishing opportunities for anglers. The bag limit for lakes will remain unchanged at 2 Murray cod. So Project 1 Million's put a lot of Murray cod into places like that. You can still catch your 2 and that's your bag limit.
And it's been very well received by the fishermen too. It's been a popular decision.
And the closed season and permitted equipment remain unchanged. There you go. That's the statement for the week at a fisheries. Jacinta, back onto the netting, if I can quickly. We had a caller into 3AW on Friday night that said, have you done the science? Is it all sustainable? And pretty much the answer to that is, this is not about sustainability really. It's about the social and economic value of fishing in the bay. And seriously, take a single whiting, the value that's created through the economy and socially for that one King George whiting compared to it caught in a net is just astronomical. It's about the social and economics of the bay, and recreational fishing is growing. And I've got to commend you. You have Project 1 Million. That's going to get, well, the aim is 1 million people, 1 million Victorians fishing by 2020. I think the target is.
Yeah, that's right. And it really is recognising that what you said, fishing is a great thing.
Pastime.
It's a great pastime. Clearly, you guys are passionate about it. You love it, and I've got people close to home that love it as well. And so it is. It's something. It gets you outdoors. You're out in the outdoors, living healthily, catching fish, socialising with people, and you mentioned the spin-offs for the economy. Think of all the tackle shops, the small country towns that rely on people coming through and stopping at the local shop and buying their petrol on their way through to their favourite fishing spot. It's good all round, and that's why we're wanting to support more people to fish.
Yeah.
We're sort of saying, we want to see more Victorians go fishing, catching more fish more often, and it is really recognising that it is a great recreational activity, and that's what the ban on the netting's about. It's about what our target, what Project 1 Million's about, getting more people to enjoy recreational fishing.
There'd be many people sitting at home that are a member of a fishing club, and quite often people say, the fishing clubs are dying, the membership's hard to keep going, the kids aren't joining, they're all the older guys. I love your initiative to help fishing clubs. Tell us about it.
Well, fishing clubs are always run by volunteers, small groups of volunteers, and this is about recognising that they do need a helping hand to reach out to kids, reach out to schools, promote fishing in local communities, promote local fishing spots, have come and try days. It'll be really about encouraging, helping local fishing clubs to bring in more people, boost up the local club, and of course that links into our target 1 million as well, which is around getting more people fishing.
And growing the participation. So if you are a member of a fishing club and Labor is re-elected, don't forget, put your hand up for the $2,000, because you can put an ad in the local paper, boost your membership, you can run open days at your clubhouse, you can do whatever. It's a great thing, and I think it's been much needed. Boys, anything you guys wanted to pick out of there to ask Jacinta?
Sorry.
Well, just quickly on the $2,000 for fishing clubs. That's quite a big thing. I know with Snapper Point Angling Club down in Mornington. I've been talking to David Sheen quite recently, who's in charge of trying to recruit new members to the club.
David was over at Geelong. He drove all the way around to come to the rally.
And it's an uphill battle.
Yeah.
With social media and things like that, it's getting harder and harder. For these people, I know it should be easy. You think it would be easy with social media, but people can share information and share things so easily these days that the fishing clubs have sort of been forgotten about. But it's more than that. It's they get together every month or every fortnight just to catch up and see what's going on. People who don't know too much about fishing can jump on a boat with someone who's more than happy to take them and teach them.
Yeah.
It's a fantastic initiative to boost fishing clubs and make them relevant again, because it should be big with social media and things like that to recruit members, but it's just not. It's almost too easy.
Yeah.
So this is a great thing. It's just going to get people back into
Can
the
I
clubs.
tell you something that is big? This is big. 15,000 one-year-old barramundi into Hazelwood Pondage. That is big. Now I'm going to put my Future Fish Foundation hat on. About 7 or 8 years ago, it must be, we actually did a project co-funded by AFTA Trelly, and you're on the you've been in Canberra today at the AFTA board meeting, and we funded the stage, what they call the risk assessment, which goes to what they call a translocation evaluation panel. It virtually does all the science to prove that barramundi would survive in there. There's no risk to the environment if they escaped, things like that. And that was all proven. That was ticked off by the state government. But it was in an era where there were probably both sides of politics saying they're going to shut Hazelwood Pondage down because it was a very heavy polluter. And the second thing was the introduction of the carbon tax was just around the corner. Well, we know history has taken that somewhere else. So we're actually in a good place. And yes, this does need international power, or whoever owns it these days, it does need their permission. But all the ducks are lined up, and this is a great promise. If the Labor Party is elected, this is just going to change the landscape of Morwell, if not Victoria.
Yeah, it's great to hear you say that, David. And it might seem small in the broader scheme of things to do these sorts of things, but again, it's about in different parts of the state, whether it's on the bays or on the coastlines or on inland waterways. You've got all these great fishing opportunities. They just need to be better supported. So supporting the local clubs, supporting fishing stocking program, supporting education programs. It is all those component parts that go together around helping us to increase the number of people fishing.
And who would have ever thought of an idea to increase tourism to Morwell? And I don't mean that, no offence to the people of Morwell. People will be driving from South Australia, Tasmania over on the boat, New South Wales to come barramundi fishing. And I know they're already planning the Barra Classic.
Victoria.
In Victoria.
If you think snapper fishing's big,
wait till you see barramundi. There's going to be one of those big barramundi, at the gates to Morwell. Morwell, like the big pineapple and the big banana.
The
It'll
big
be
barra.
the big barra. It's just fantastic news, and I really would love to see that one come up, and helps jobs, helps tourism, helps a town that's desperately in need. They had that fire down there, so there's a lot of things that just need a boost down in Morwell.
And we'll get to use our barra lures twice a year, once up north and once down.
Once down here. Yeah, that would be good. Kramer's mailbag up next, and more on Labor's plan for fishing. See you after this.
Talking fishing. Talking fishing.
And a little bit of Kramer's mailbag this week. They just keep rolling in, and then straight back into discussions with Jacinta Allen, the Shadow Minister for Fisheries, who's been good enough to join us all the way from Bendigo and in the studio tonight. But Kramer's mailbag. Hey Dave, quirky one, but maybe worthy to discuss on Talking Fishing. We were told that you cannot even be in possession of fishing rods in marine parks. For example, Pope's Eye, which we have been for a snorkel, then gone for a fish later out of the marine park area. Could be good to clarify this to other fishos, sorry about the handwriting, who snorkel, from Mark and Michelle. I don't think that's true. I find that very, very hard to believe.
It'd be pretty hard done by.
I mean, there's times where you travel through marine parks to get to a fishing spot, and I really don't think that's true.
No.
Happy to clarify it, and we will, but I believe that you're just not allowed to be using your fishing rods in a marine park. You're certainly allowed to have them on your boat.
Yeah.
So, but we will clarify, and we'll come back to that next week. Hi Kramer, there you go. I would like to thank you guys for the best hour of TV to date. Is this your uncle writing in again, Trelly? I don't think any fisho would disagree. I would like to bring up the subject of Melbourne's second shipping port. It seems to be an almost forgotten topic, with the Liberal government planning for Western Port, which would have a devastating effect in that whole northwestern arm, and quite possibly wiping out as anchorable fishing spots Lysarts, Esso, Stony Point, Flinders, etc. The Labor government going with Port Phillip Bay towards an area where it wouldn't disturb popular fishing spots. Could you please clarify more on this very important subject? Is this your uncle, Jacinta? Haven't got an uncle that's worried about the Port of Hastings. I think really, boys, we do get a bit of mail on this, and certainly you get asked about it in the shop. So I think we need to look at this perhaps after the election. I mean, there's a lot going on. I'm not sure it's going to change anything, but And Jacinta, is the port planned for Geelong? Is that right? The Labor side of things?
Look, very quickly, Dave,
Yeah.
there's two proposals out in the marketplace, if you like.
Yep.
The Liberal Party wants to develop the Port of Hastings,
Yep.
as your mailbag writer has indicated.
Yep. Aaron Austin from Springvale.
There you go. Aaron understands this issue well. Labor's proposal is to examine the development of Bay West. There's
Yep.
a whole bunch of logical reasons that we think that that's the better option. All the existing infrastructure is on that side of the bay.
Yeah.
There's a lot of companies and organisations linked into that. The Liberals have a different view. Obviously, the electorate will decide in a week and a half as to which one goes forward.
Yeah, beautiful. Hi David, have you guys heard any news on what's happening with the long jetty at Port Welshpool? A fire has caused this pier to be condemned and unusable for over 10 years. This used to be a great land-based option and fantastic for family fishing. Last I heard, their plans on rebuilding, but I haven't heard anything for a while. 10 years?
Yeah, I don't it's been that long, is it?
No, I would have said 5, and I could be wrong. And quite frankly, I haven't heard anything about it. So not sure where that's at. We will make some inquiries. Big thank you to Daniel Britton from Sandhurst for that one. So might have to talk to a minister about that in a few weeks' time. That's it for Kramer's Mailbag. If you'd like to write to me or these blokes, this is what you do.
Send your mail to Kramer's Mailbag, PO Box 734, Patterson Lakes, Victoria 3197, or email kramer@ifish.com.au.
And Jacinta Allen's been good enough to join us in the studio, the Shadow Minister for Fisheries, and a week and a half to go to the big election. Last week we focused a lot on the Coalition's plan for fisheries, which was banning netting in Port Phillip Bay and a $20 million buyback, voluntary buyback down at Gippsland Lakes. And Jacinta, I notice in here, halt the practice of netting at the mouths of rivers in the Gippsland Lakes. So you've actually put up an alternative to that as well. Those river mouths are so vulnerable, particularly when you get a big flood, the brim come out. And I know Linton Barr, who's an absolute advocate. And if you haven't heard of Linton Barr, what planet have you been on? He's a big advocate for stop that netting around the river mouths.
Well, they funnel right. That's the funnel point, isn't it?
It is.
That's where they all got to go.
Yeah. So that's good. Jacinta, tell me about this. A kids come try fishing on a pier day.
Well, again, it's all about lifting the participation in fishing. And so really, you think about when you're a kid, if you try your hand at different sports or different activities, you'll find which one you've got a passion for, you'll find which one you're good at and which one you'll love. And so if you expand opportunities for kids to get these experiences, you might have a fisherman for life or a fisherwoman for life.
Yeah.
You just don't know until they get in there and get the chance to have a go.
Yeah, I mean, getting kids fishing, I mean, that's the crux of it all, isn't it? I mean, when they're down in there fishing, I mean, they're doing other things. They're exploring the waterways. They're out and they're doing things. I mean, it's just the catalyst. Fishing is the catalyst to get the families together and do that type of thing.
And if you went back probably 6 years ago, I think in the era of Joe Helper was the fisheries minister, they had those family fishing days that were very, very successful, run by Fisheries Victoria, so there was a good budget allocated to it. They're always trout fisheries, in lakes like Ringwood Lake, places like that, Lilydale Lake, and Casey Fields, places like that, which are all good. This is getting the kids out into the salt water, out into the fresh air, and different species, and some of our piers are absolutely fantastic. Frankston, Mornington, Morty Alec. Imagine if we had one day a year where every single one of those piers was full of kids, and you might get the fishing clubs to run them or something like that, but absolutely fantastic idea. And get them out in the outdoors and in the salt air. I love that salt air for kids,
It'll be a busy year next year, isn't it?
It's going to be a very busy year next year.
We hope.
Yeah.
A couple of other things. We won't ask you too many questions about some of these. Victorian Trout Opening Festival created into an event of even greater significance. That is a really good thing that, if you go back, again, 20, 30 years, it was massive. It's all right now. There's a bit of a festival up at Lake Eildon and things like that, but it could be a lot bigger and better. Open recreational trout cod fisheries at Lakes Sambell in Beechworth and Kerford in Beechworth. Both in Beechworth. Trelly, you've talked only a few weeks ago about the amount of trout cod in the waters and how they're almost a pest now. So any opening of that into recreational fishing is fantastic.
Yeah, I think, were we talking trout there or trout cod?
Trout cod.
Trout cod, yeah. So they are. We've seen the numbers increase dramatically in the areas where they have been stocked. It has been controlled fishing.
Yeah.
So it's doing really, really well. The introduction back to fish for some of these species is, I think, just a natural occurrence.
It's the next step,
Yes.
isn't it?
Yeah.
Jacinta, I want to ask you about this one. Labor will examine the best way to establish Fisheries Victoria as a statutory authority to strengthen the management of Victoria's fisheries resources, research and development functions and relationships with key stakeholders. What does that mean?
Yeah, it sounds like a bit of a bureaucratic mouthful. I acknowledge
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
But this is really just looking at a better way of Fisheries Victoria doing business.
Yeah.
We know, and I think you guys can talk probably much more expertly than I about some of the challenges Fisheries Victoria has had over recent years. We know they've had their budget cut. We know it's affected things like the capacity to carry out research, to undertake stocking programs, to work with various groups like that are involved in this area. So we want to make sure that Fisheries Victoria is performing as best as it possibly can be.
Yeah.
One model to do that within government is to look at establishing it as a statutory authority, giving it some strength
So it
within
virtually
government.
makes it a standalone organisation. It's not just a small little pimple on DEPI or DPI where it could have its budget cut or whatever. It's a standalone organisation that runs itself, very well organised and knows where it's heading.
Well, it gives it some identity, if you like, within government. It gives it its own identity. And as you say, Fisheries Victoria can be often seen as a small part of a very large department. Well, this would give it its own identity, and it would still report directly to the Minister of the day, so there would be that reporting line, and so it would really strengthen those relationships.
Yeah.
I think it's a good model. I've worked as a minister in the past in these sort of with an organisation called Regional Development Victoria.
Yep.
I've seen how it can work well, and that's what we'd hope it to do in
Would
the
this
future.
give clarity to where our fishing licence money goes?
Yeah, so all those.
I think it'll help because we've been very critical
Because
of
we need
the
to.
government cost shifting a lot of things to that. So,
Exactly, yeah.
Jacinta, I'm going to give you 10 seconds to answer this because we're very, very running out of time.
Sure.
Marine parks, you've come out and said no new marine parks. In 10 seconds, what are you going to do to existing marine parks?
We won't be expanding those either.
That's great news. Coming up on Talking Fishing, this week's hotspots and what's coming up on C31 Fishing right after this.
Talking fishing. Talking fishing.
Hello, Richie Minnow here. It's now time for this week's fishing hotspots on Talking Fishing. Marvellous.
And boy, there's a lot of hotspots this week, isn't there? It's hotting up in the fishing world, boys.
Hotspot Geelong last week.
Hotspot at Geelong. Gee, there's some good stuff happening, isn't there? You know, and
So, yeah.
It's still getting better.
it's still getting better, and I don't know if the coalition's going to come back and say a few words and promise a bit more. Who knows? But what a great position to be in, and we've all worked hard, and there's many people like the Friends of Corio Bay and AFTA and things like that. So we'll get onto hotspots in a minute, by the way. But thanks to everybody, because we're now in a position, both sides have promised to ban netting in Port Phillip Bay. That's the important thing. You people decide which way you want to vote. It's not one way anymore. So let's have a look at the hotspots. Chelsea, a big one. Those fish are just in that nice little pocket, starting to warm up a little bit. Some very, very good fish coming from Chelsea, Ads.
Yeah, well, that's it. That's kind of, I guess, been I won't say a forgotten area because plenty of people have been fishing there, but it's been patchy at best.
Yeah.
But now we're starting to get the consistency. You can
Yeah.
go out there and you can get yourself a bag pretty easy. Depth of water is still, it could be anywhere from, I guess, 12 metres through to 16 metres. It doesn't really matter too much. Sound the fish up. They're definitely starting to fire up as the water temperature continues to
A lot
get
of people
warmer.
still fishing sort of 10, 11, 12 metres too
Yeah,
off Chelsea.
that's
so
right. And I
don't be
think-
afraid to fish in shallow, until, if there's no fish. Certainly, in the dark, fish
Change
there.
of the tide. Change of the tide.
Change of the tide too,
Yep.
Trelly, yeah. But sort of when it's dark, they might tend to move on a little bit as it gets lighter in the day.
Yep.
Mount Martha's another hot spot, boys. Out deep, 21 metres.
Yeah, a lot of charter boats heading out this way now.
Yeah.
And traditionally, they start to school up in the deeper water out on the peninsula. So same sort of deal. Just get out there, sound them up. There's plenty of fish there. It's still just a matter of dropping on the school of fish that's going to be feeding through that part of the tide.
Yeah.
But focus your tide changes like everywhere, but definitely out wide, anywhere from 18 to 20 metres.
The old Lysarts in Western Port. We saw today.
Blue scope steel. Blue scope steel.
Blue
mate.
scope steel. Yeah, we saw earlier on, some good photos of fish coming from Lysarts area, and it's still a hot favourite, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. And it's typically, I guess, and we spoke about this last week and probably the week before that, but typically it's, I guess, a school fish area. Not this year.
No.
As we see, there's big fish
Some
coming
big
in
fish.
from that way. They're still spread out. They're still big, so why not? Easy to get to.
Yeah, yeah. A lot of people changing baits now a bit too. So, you know, people starting to use yellowtail scad, silver whiting a lot more than the pilchards.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, I think those early season fish, you go, I don't want to risk being too fancy.
Yeah,
the
yeah,
old
yeah.
pilly, you know, will do. But people starting to experiment a little
They
bit
do
now.
it like we'll use yabbies, you know, coming out of winter because the yabbies come out of the mud and fresh
Yeah.
water. Do you change your baits like that?
They all come out of the freezer, Trelly.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, look, it's just different. You know, I think some people do stick to, you know, I know I was out with Scotty last Wednesday morning and he said, got to use scad. Didn't catch a fish on scad, we caught him on pilchards.
Well, I think pilchard being a softer bait, they don't really need to think much about it before they know it. They've swallowed it. There's nothing really resisting. Whereas a scad or a silver whiting, quite a dense bait, which really takes a little bit of eating. So if they're in two minds, they can either eat this nice soft bait where they don't have to try too hard, or they've got to expend a lot of energy in cooler water trying to get down, I guess, a harder meal. So
Fourth hotspot, boys, cows. We said it last week, get to cows.
Yeah.
We've seen some people get to cows and catch some very, very nice fish.
yeah, a lot of people get put off by cows, I think, just through to the rate at which the tide hammers through there. But the fishing reports have been way too good. The fish are big. Yeah, you're fishing some deep water, and the tide does hammer through. But focus on your tide changes. Fish either side, so you can fish comfortably with anywhere from an 8 to sort of 10 ounce. And as soon as it starts, I guess, running too fast, you can move into those shallow areas. But definitely cows on a tide change is producing some massive fish.
The Tooradin Channel, boys. Number 5 hotspot. Boy, get up there and get some whiting.
So
But
it's not
snapper in the
snapper.
deep as well.
Yeah.
But fish for whiting, gee, there's some good whiting out there.
Yeah, I saw some photos that Ronnie Smith, who you would have seen in the program before ours, he got a massive bag of whiting from up that way this week, and
Almost snapper gear now, isn't it?
yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's
Like
right.
South Australia, you use snapper gear over there for whiting. It's good
Yeah.
like that.
That's right. Yeah, they're getting big. A small fish is 36 centimetres. Where I take one of them any day of the week.
Oh, absolutely. And guys, the other thing is, the flathead bycatch. Don't forget that. We've seen some
they're 60
lovely
centimetres.
We've seen some lovely flathead, and
Some nice ones.
I
That's
think
right.
Tim, that was off cows from memory earlier on in the show, that was caught on a snapper snatcher.
Yeah.
So just a little bit of pilly, quarter of a pilly, and there's some beautiful, bycatch. So it's pretty good. And lucky last, Trelly, could you say this? Wordy bollock.
What are we?
It's out the back of Geelong anyway.
That one. Fresh
Wordy
water.
bollock.
Boys Geelong, no?
Yeah, it's only out the back of Geelong. Well, it's a little bit out the back of Geelong, but a beautiful little reservoir, not too big, some beautiful redfin and trout coming from Wordy Bollock. Did I say that right?
No.
Some
We'll get a letter over that.
How do you target them down there, Trelly? Is it just somewhere you go and soak a bunch of scrub worms, or can you actively lure fish it and do okay? Or
You can actively lure fish it. I mean, we've seen some of the product go through the store, and there's certain little colours like reds and with white stripes over them, things like that. But the best thing, with your tackle shops, with all your local tackle shops, you can call in, and they usually know what's going on. But certainly hard-bodied lures are probably one of the most favourite. But then again, soft plastics. But a number of different techniques.
It's a good little option for getting out on the freshwater because you don't need to travel far from a major city like Geelong, and
Land-based.
that's
land-based or boat-based, whatever you want to do. There are some great little lakes there. So, boys, a lot of fishing coming up on C31 as well. So there's a massive shows coming up on C31 this week. Starting, I think, tomorrow morning, 6:30 in the morning. There's, I haven't even got it. Savage Seas, I think, is at 6:30 in the morning.
yeah, on the fly shows a couple of times.
Sorry, Fishing Down Under. Now we've got it on the screen. You've got to love live television. Fishing Down Under, 6:30 in the morning. Thursday, 6:30 in the morning, Australian Fishing Network. 9:30 at night, Savage Seas Adventures. 10 p.m. on the fly. We'll put my glasses on, I can even read it better. Friday, 6:30 in the morning, Catch and Cook, and 7 a.m. on the fly. Then the big extravaganza on Saturday, 9:30 a.m. Savage Seas Adventures, 10 a.m. on the fly, 10:30 Fishing Down Under, 11 o'clock Australian Fishing Network, 11:30 that's fishing, and 12 noon Catch and Cook. That is an extravaganza. And then you can have a little break, and 6:30 at night that's fishing, Fishing Down Under, and Australian Fishing Network at 7:30. Pretty good, boys.
Well, they're not bad here at C31. They give you a little break that Saturday afternoon for go for a fish, and you can come home for dinner and catch another couple of shows.
Absolutely. Boys, a big week and a half ahead of us too, isn't it?
Well, yeah, it seems as though, so much has happened over the last few weeks.
Yeah, it's getting down to the pointy end now.
Yeah, and I reckon there's no doubt there's going to be a lot more discussion, a lot more things pop up in the next week and a half. But like you said, Dave, it's been not too often you can say leading up to this time of year that hey, we're in the box seat.
That's
the front
right.
foot's forward.
The other one thing I should mention, Lake Tolondo, I know Labor have come out and said they'll establish a committee that will look at a recreational allocation of water. So that is a big thing, and I think everyone that saw that footage of the rally, the big banner was Save Lake Tolondo.
Yeah, that's right.
People shouldn't forget about that. It's a big thing, Lake Tolondo water. It's in real trouble, but it needs to be fixed right now. That's it for Talking Fishing. Hope you enjoyed the show. Next week, we preview everything there is to know about Murray cod fishing with Trelly on the eve of cod opening. Until then, have a great week and enjoy your fishing.
We got all you need, just take a look. Watch those fish jump on your hook. So just relax and take your time. Enjoy the show, then drop us a line. Talking fishing, nothing but fishing. We're talking fishing. Talking fishing, nothing but fishing. We're talking fishing. Talking fishing. Talking fishing, nothing but fishing. We're talking fishing. If it's facts about fishing that you want to know, then tune in, folks, cause this is the show. We'll show you all the right bait to use. So sit right back, you got nothing to lose. Doesn't really matter if it's trout or carp, flathead, marlin, or a gummy shark. Listen to the guys and you can't go wrong. They'll be talking about fishing till the cows come home. Talking fishing, nothing but fishing. We're talking fishing.
Welcome everyone to Talking Fishing, and wow, what a week it has been. A big show coming to you tonight with all the regular segments, plus Shadow Minister for Fisheries Jacinta Allen joins us live in the studio very shortly to explain the Labor Party's plan for recreational fishing. Adam Ring, great to see you and your family at the big march in Geelong on Sunday.
Yeah, we took the family down for the march, and it was a great turnout and a great day, and the sun came out and joined the party as well, which made it even
Now,
better.
how old's Addison?
She's 4.
First time she's marched in down the street.
First time she's marched, and
got
she
the
was
banner up.
All she was worried about was walking on the road with the cars.
Yeah.
At least we
No
never
worry.
taught her something.
The first time she's ever had a police escort as well. And Steve Trelful, we know him as Trelly. Some big statements made last weekend about fishing Trelly, and it's all good news, isn't it?
It's all good news. Both the major parties have stepped up to the plate, and hopefully we won't have any of those marches again.
That's right, yeah.
Absolutely.
Let's just go back to, not to last Tuesday's show, but to probably Friday night it all started. We had Daniel Andrews in the studio of 3AW Boys, and he actually released his policy on recreational fishing on 3AW last Friday night. And anyone that wants to check out that story, there is a story on 3aw.com.au if you want to have an actual listen to that interview. But he announced a lot of things, and Jacinta Allen will be going through all those things tonight. We're putting her under the grill, so to speak, and asking her all the questions about the policy. But it went from there to Saturday. I know Daniel was on Rex Hunt's show on SEN on Saturday morning, again going through the policy, and then Sunday the big march through the streets of Geelong, and well over 1,000 people attended that, and thank you very much. I know we pushed it fairly bigly last week, if bigly is a correct word.
It is, that's how big it was.
That's how big it was, bigly. And a great turn up. We marched through the streets, pretty much not protesting. It was in support of, yes, we've got both parties of politics agreed to ban netting in Port Phillip Bay.
Well, that's right. Well, I think it was almost introduced as a celebration, and that it was. Both parties have come out now and announced what they're going to do for recreational fishing, and it was great to see a massive turnout because it is a celebration. Look what we've got to look forward to now.
Yeah, exactly. Like you say, it did start off as a bit of a protest march. Well, that's what it was aimed at. Get the netting out. Both parties came on board, and it was a celebratory march.
Quite a bit of difference between the two parties as well, and we'll go through that tonight. I think last week we spent pretty much the whole week on the coalition's policy and pulled that apart. The promise to ban netting in Port Phillip Bay over a 10-year period, $20 million contributing to it. A voluntary buyback in Gippsland Lakes, which I've got to say hasn't been received overly well. And we talked a little bit about it last week,
that's right.
that danger of a voluntary buyback, because you get 2 or 3 guys, and I think there's been a few smart aleck comments, if you like, coming out of there saying, 2 guys will hand their licences in, that'll take the 2 million, and the other 6 will fish just as hard. So very, very careful with those voluntary buybacks. And now we've got a whole raft of things coming out of the Labor Party, which is a full policy. There's probably 20 different items that we will go through in detail later on.
Well, that's it. It's not just about netting. I know that's probably been the spotlight, and that's the one thing we've focused our attention on pretty heavily. But it's a whole package, Dave. It's not just based around this one thing.
Yeah, there's some big
very
things.
Very good result. I think the pressure was put on Labor by the coalition, and they've responded, which is a really good thing.
Absolutely.
It falls exactly into places we want it to
Just
fall.
again, I'll ask you again, Trelly, up in Shepparton, some of that news filtered through to Shepparton?
It does actually. What it does is actually filters through to the country people, because we've seen over a period of time prop up in media releases some of the parks, as far as marine national parks in freshwater. So, from Barmer to Tokumall or certain parts of Mulwala. So they still bubble underneath it, and they watch everything that's going around the state. So fishermen, what the word is like with fishermen, it spreads quickly.
Spreads pretty quick,
So it does go up their way.
Plenty to talk about, but boys, time to check out what's being caught by the people at home. Let's have a look at some of the catches of the week. And we'll kick it off with Nathan Calagris, I think it is. Calagris, a beautiful flathead there, weighed just over a